Here we go. It is the bye week. It's week what? God, it's week 11 now. The NFL season's flying by. The 49ers bye week. I'm Andrew Pasquini, Jason Aponte. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. NBA draft. It's crazy to think that the season just ended how long ago, and you guys are already talking about draft and getting ready to play again. It's crazy the turnaround that they're having.
Oh, get ready because free agency starts Friday too.
Oh man,
it's churning. So bye week. 49ers lose to the Saints on Sunday. We'll dive into that a little bit today. We'll dive into it a little bit more on Friday. But today we have a guest, Jason.
Mr. Guy Haberman of, you guys know him, Haberman and Middlecoff podcast. Huge podcast. Love that. Play-by-play guy for Pac-12. Guy, thank you for joining us, buddy. How are you, man?
Good to see you guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking time out with us. We understand you're completely busy, so it means a lot for us for you to jump on, and talk with us.
My pleasure.
It's awesome, man.
I sit at my desk all day long, so it's busy as
I'm starting to work from home now that COVID is, as we like to say, is in the third time coming through. It's still just a prolonged first time. So my work has me working from home, and they've been asking me to do overtime a lot. And I have my whole desk set up with my video games, and they're just like, "Are you sure you're okay working overtime?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm going to be sitting in the same chair whether I'm working or not. So I might as well make money while sitting in the same chair."
For sure. So, before we get into the 49ers questions, and stuff like that, we'll just, we'll talk a little bit. So for anybody that doesn't know, Guy, let the people know, what you have going on, the teams you cover, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So right now, I do like you said, the podcast with John, which is the main thing to talk about here for sure. John Middlecoff, for people that don't know. And we've been doing that for several years now, since we did the radio show for a few years before that. So, that'd be the first thing for people to go check out. And then because when the shutdown hit, we were like, all right, let's do something else. And so we started a YouTube channel, which we love doing. We just hit 5,000 subs on that 10 minutes ago.
Wow.
So
congrats.
Make it 25,000. I still think somebody posted, John and I were just laughing because we were just talking about the draft, and somebody posted on because we do a lot of Niner Raider videos, just general NFL stuff, but the Niner videos have all done really well. I think the biggest one we did was when they signed Trent Williams. We've had a few videos blow up, and some guy just wrote you just wait and see, the Raider videos are going to be the ones that really blow up. And I was like, well, you got a long way to go because some of those Niner ones were big. But it's just, when a team's good, the Raiders got a lot of build up. We're not here to talk about that, but my point is we're doing that on YouTube. And right now I'm doing college football for FS1. Been a lot of Mountain West football, so we can talk. You guys want to get into some Mountain West prospects, man? Let's.
I think Andrew has questions about prospects and guys that you're looking at. So we'll get to that.
We can do that during the draft I'll be your Mountain West expert. But
I'm trying to think. They've moved conferences so much. Is BYU still in the Mountain West? I don't think so, right?
BYU does their own thing. Yeah, they're independent.
Yes,
they end up playing a lot. They still have contracts with Boise and with San Diego State, who they'll play in 3 weeks. So yeah. I know. Zach Wilson, big deal.
That's really the name that I was
we did a Zach Wilson video the other day, and 20% of the views came directly linked from I don't even, whatever their BYU blog is. So shout out to the BYU fans that are crossing over with all the Niner fans on that video. But
that's it. I got a comment from Javi here from the Fourth and Goal podcast. Shout out to them. They had Joe Staley yesterday on their show. We need to live in Haberman calling Niners game.
Matt, right?
Yes. The Fourth and Goal podcast. They had Joe Staley last night. They were on live, allowing fans to jump on to talk with Joe. He took a bunch of time. It was amazing. Shout out to those guys. That was an amazing thing last night. But yeah, so we need an Aqib Talib and Haberman calling Niners games, I think, is what
did you guys see any of Aqib on the
I did. I did. It was almost like, barbershop talk, how it is when we're just talking football.
Yeah, I liked it. I checked out his podcast and I watched the podcast. It was like, okay, this is going to be exactly what I think it's going to be. Once you saw the podcast, you're like, yes, we are getting in my head what I think you're going to get out of Aqib Talib. We're going to get. And I only had that game on Red Zone, so I didn't get to really lock in on it. But from what I saw, he was good.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, I saw people on Twitter talking about it, and then like I kind of keyed into it a little bit. Like whenever they did pop up on the screen, I tried to listen as much as I could. He did a good job. He did a real good job.
Half the job is just like being loose. Like people love Romo. Romo got all this attention right for like predicting plays, but one of the best things he does is he's happy that he's there. Like he's having a good time. Yes. Like, and clearly Aqib was the same way. So like that
for sure.
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to start off with kind of the play-by-play stuff as well, and the calling games. You've done NBA, you've done baseball, you've done football. I mean, is there any advice that you have just for anybody trying to get into play-by-play or calling games? Is it just you try and do as much as you can, or is that something that you were kind of told to do, or what? How did you get involved with so many different sports? Would be the place I would start.
Yeah, I mean, definitely try to do as much as you can, but it's anyone that's tried it, it's hard to like get in, and it's definitely hard to get in when you don't have something to give somebody. Here is evidence of what I do. I started doing it in high school. I'm from both John and I went to high school together, a town called Davis, which is Northern California, UC Davis, small college town. And we had a local. Andrew, where are you from?
I'm Sacramento, actually. So
okay, perfect. You know then.
Yep.
And I don't know what the Jersey equivalent of Davis is, Jason, but
so you said Northern Cal. I'm in Northern Jersey, so it's close to around here. I mean, is it a big town?
No, it's like 60. I don't know what it is right now. I mean, my parents still live there. I'd say when UC, it's a one high school town.
Yeah.
So okay. It's like 65,000 people, but that includes UC Davis's student enrollment, right? So
that's probably the equivalent of where I live here in Northern Jersey. Okay. One of the cities are combined, probably. Yeah, for sure.
Two junior highs, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so it's not huge. So I was doing local, like we had a just like a community access channel there, right? Okay. Like I wouldn't even call it like, it's not like your local KCRA news or something like that. It's like it's community access. It's like town hall meetings, and the high school football games would air on a Wednesday night with no audio. And so I started doing that when I was in high school. I was like, hey, could I talk over it? And I was like, yeah. So I did that. And then I went to Fresno State and started calling just anything, I could do there. A lot of, like softball and volleyball and got to do a little bit of baseball, but a lot of just whatever. So that's definitely the recommendation. But I also think like the game has changed in the last, my freshman year in college was fall of 03, right? A lot's changed. Like you don't need necessarily to put a tape together to like have a game with a spot that somebody gave you for you to go sit and call. You can call literally whatever, and you can do it off your computer if you want, just to at least make a tape and try to get stuff out there. And the beauty is like there's so many ways now that if you have a local high school, if it's really something you want to do, I would say start, and you don't know where to start, just go to something that's in your community, a local high school, and say, hey, can we stream your games? Because now all that stuff is we've seen in the last 6 months, like how much work has gone from, you can't do it from home, radio stations, TV stations, all of a sudden everybody is broadcasting from home. And it looks good. Like, look at this. Like TV didn't look, my camera's a little blurry. TV didn't look this good, right? On TV 10, 20 years ago, let alone streaming from our home. So I would, that would be my first thought, but God, there's a million. But yes, reps. Don't be afraid to do anything. That's a general answer.
Okay, that's roughly. I went to Sacramento State, and I was part of the student radio station, and I did play-by-play for football, basketball, and baseball for the student-run radio station there too. So I got what for you is the toughest one to call? For me, it was basketball, just because it moves so fast.
Basketball on the radio.
Basketball on the radio. So that's your answer, just basketball.
Yeah, because basketball, like football, to tell people where the play is, you just give them a number, and everybody knows it. Like, oh, they're on the 30-yard line. Great. Are they moving right to left? Cool. Short side or the long side of the field? Baseball is down to the left field corner, just past the bag at second, over the first baseman's head. Basketball is like, he's over at the right elbow, free throw line extended into the corner, but it's onto the wing now. And there's like 10 people all moving, right? And it's just any one of them could have the ball at any moment. And there's no like football has, and to me, basketball is fantastic. I love it on TV because it's got so many just moments, right? But there's no rhythm. A lot of times you could have a game, there's just no rhythm. Like football, there's a play, it stops. There's a play, it stops. Baseball, there's a right.
Yeah.
Most sports. Basketball to me, once I got comfortable doing basketball on TV, I was like, okay, I'm comfortable now. The good thing about doing on radio is you just say what you're seeing. Like you don't even think. You just say what you're seeing. And for me, doing basketball on TV was actually the hardest one to adjust to because of the fact that there's no like clear I stop and then the analyst picks it up after the play. And then right before the snap, he stops and then I pick it up, right? Basketball, you do have to weave talking and calling. And I think more and more now, that's such a big, like the more talk shows you do, the better you are at calling a game now, because that is a bigger part of the game, right? You're not just telling people that there's so many stats and score. You don't have to tell people it's 17-10, the play clock's at 6. It's all right there. So now you do have to have more of a conversation. And that was probably that's to me now the most fun part about calling basketball, but everything has something awesome about it.
Yeah, I definitely feel it with the basketball on radio. Sac State's women's team, I would call their games. And I don't even know how to describe it, but they ran shifts almost, like kind of like hockey.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of and I forget the head coach's name, but he would run 5 for 3 minutes, timeout, new 5 in. And it just got to a point where I don't even know how to keep track of the subs. I don't know who's on the floor. I just had to do it on the fly. And then the last thing with the broadcasting before we get into the Niners, I was watching some of your stuff, and one of your things you said was a preview of the Utah BYU game. And you said something along the lines of, this is Alabama versus Auburn, just without the Southern accent. And then your final call was, one of the longest rivalries in football, features the biggest comeback in, this rivalry's history. Those one-liners, do those come off the top of your head, or do you sit there and plan them? Or how do you do that with the one-liner? Because I found those really entertaining.
That's a good question. So what you're referring to is the Utah BYU game from 2018. And Utah had already won the Pac-12 South, but they still had this huge rivalry game to play. And they had not, they'd come from the Mountain West. They hadn't been in the Pac-12 title game. And so it was a big deal, and the place was packed, and they got this rivalry game. And so we did this big, and our producer for that broadcast was a guy named Chris Withers, who is the producer for the Chicago White Sox TV shows. And he actually wrote what Andrew's referring to, Jason, and for people, there was like this, we put like some big music behind it, and it was like all these highlights. And it was like this scripted read, right? And that's where it was just building up the hype of the game. So the first thing was a written, scripted, pre-produced, right? Like they played the music, they showed me the video. The producer gave me the script the night before. He's like, hey, do what you want with it. But it was really good, so I mostly left it. And that particular producer is really good at doing stuff like that. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
And plus I love it because when you read something like that and you get the music, just take your favorite like broadcast music, whatever it is, and it just hypes you up. Like it locked me in for the game. So it was great that we did it. So that was scripted. And then the other thing that he's referring to is BYU was up big in that game. Utah comes back. Jason Shelley, who was the quarterback for Utah, breaks off on this long run. And the line was a rivalry for generations and a comeback for the ages.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay.
And I'll admit, kind of proud of that one.
It instantly stood out to me. Like I listened to that. I'm like, I got to ask him about that one.
Yeah. So it varies like that. There are definitely things I say, but they're just totally off the cuff. And I'm like, yeah, that one, I think like 3 or 4 minutes before in the game, I was just like, something cool could happen. Like, how do we capture if you have a highlight? A lot of people are afraid to I scripted it. Well, I'm not sitting at home ahead of time thinking about it. But in that moment, we're in a commercial break, and I'm just sitting there thinking, if someone's going to just see this highlight, like, how are they going to understand why this place is going so bananas right now? Because the place went bananas. He scores this touchdown, and the place is going, like, they take all these crowd shots and think, it looks like a soccer game. Like, things are being thrown, banners, people are going crazy. And so to me, like, I have no problem thinking ahead of time, like, how am I going to describe? I just try to think of it like a time capsule. If someone just sees these 15 seconds, how are they going to understand why this looks the way it looks? Not that I knew exactly what was going to happen, but I just knew like something could happen. This is pretty cool. If it happens, I don't want to drop the ball. So that one I was definitely thinking about. We had a commercial break a few minutes before, and I was just like, what? And it's not one of those where I'm like, yes, that's it. Write it down. It's just like, I had that. I'm like, I don't know if I like that, actually. I didn't. When it came out of my mouth, I actually thought that might have been too cheesy. That was the first thought in my head. Like, I don't know if that was good. And then I watched it back. The tape don't lie. It's true. I was like, okay, I think that worked. So you guys can be the judge, but
yeah. Oh, well, you talk about listening to it in the sense of a 15-second screenshot of why these people are going so crazy, and like that's the exact context I watched it in. And
right.
Like just in that one line, I understood. Oh, okay. So Utah came back. People are losing their minds because of it. So like nailed it. A+, perfect. You know, so
nice. Good.
So I wanted to make sure I asked about that one liner because it's just great.
I love talking about that one. You like how I pretend to try and remember what I said? Like,
right.
I think it was a rivalry for generations.
That it was great. Yeah. And yeah, so I saw you've done, Warriors, you've done A's, so that's all. It's all just it's super cool. It's cool to see that, that's what you do. I mean, that's a lot of people, like me, like Jason. That's where we're trying to get. And so it's amazing to see. And kudos to you for all of it.
I appreciate saying that, Andrew. Thank you.
So do we want to talk about the 49ers now? And 4-6?
Yeah, man. So guy, like honestly, right now, right, with this bye week, right, and we have a lot of time to reflect on this last Saints loss. Have a lot of time to think about what is the future of this team, and the big question is probably coming down the line in the comments. You know exactly what that is. The question that you've probably been asked a million times, the same question that we've been asked about the quarterback situation. But like, honestly, this loss, right? For me, I didn't expect the 49ers to win this game, right? I was on record saying I don't think they're going to win this game. It's hard to win games when you have backup after backup after backup, right? I think that a lot of blame was thrown at Kyle Shanahan in this game, and I'm not necessarily understanding it, because it's almost like people forget. Andrew and I text during the game all the time. It's almost like people forget. There's a reason some of these guys are backups. They're backups because they can't execute as well as the actual players that should be there. So when things go wrong, to blame coaching seems a little bit short-sighted. If you want to nitpick play calls, that's fine, but you're leaving out the nuance of how they got to that play and what could be next. So, just give me a little bit of your thoughts as to like where the team is right now at this point, going into the bye week and what they should be really thinking about realistically going forward.
Yeah. So first and foremost, as it relates to Kyle, I agree with you. I think he's an elite coach. I decided he was an elite coach. I am always open to changing my mind, but it's going to take more than this year to change my mind that Kyle Shanahan's an elite coach. So we can argue about should he done this or should he done that, whatever, all day long. But to me, the bar is I think that he's an elite coach. I don't know for sure that it's going to translate to what it translates to with elite, because elite coaches over 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, they win a whole lot more than they lose. And right now, the Niners have not done that. Now, I think all of us that have watched all of their games under Kyle Shanahan and the games that came before and the games that came before and know what this has looked like, can look like, understand the context of why his record is under 500, but career. But I think he's an elite coach. So full stop. Like, that's what I think about him. Okay. So is it fair to criticize him? Absolutely. The other part of it is he's in charge of personnel. Like, he is the final say when it comes to personnel. So we can get into, should he have scouted Patrick Mahomes? Should he have considered that? Should he have, should they as a team, I shouldn't say he, because even though he's the final authority, this team does have a really good collective as a front office, but D Ford, Quan Alexander, right? Like, the list was McGlinchey the right pick? There were another tackle went right after him. And we'll see in the coming months. They got so many decisions to make. Now, no one's 100%. I remember hearing Trent Baalke say that Ron Wolf once told him that it's basically you're trying to hit 500 in the draft, and they've nailed picks, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at Matt. But because Matt got Joe last night, and we got guys. So I mean, it's just like
in Jason's defense, he tried to get me for next week because he was.
I did.
Let's not. It's a bad look if we try to back up Joe Staley with Guy. But then I couldn't do next week, so here we are. Yeah. And now next week, Thanksgiving Eve, maybe you can get Joe.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. But yeah, but continue, man. I'm sorry, Guy.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's true that we should talk about, like, you know, who's going to be here next year. Like, I think that all that needs to be discussed at this point, because there's a mass exodus, I feel like, that's about to happen with this team, just based on what the salary cap's going to look like. And it just boils down to a numbers game. Like, you can't pay everyone. So.
And the free agents are, you know, now obviously you want to give Trent Williams an extension.
Yes.
You want to give Fred Warner an extension because his last year of the contract's coming up. Juszczyk, Tart, K'Wan Williams, Bourne, Blair, Verrett, DJ Jones,
Kerry Hyder.
Get Kerry Hyder back on the 49ers.
Yes.
But somebody might watch Kerry Hyder and go, I want to pay him twice what the Niners are offering him. I don't know.
See, that's what's scary. And that's what's scary for me about Verrett and Hyder. And yeah, like with Verrett and Hyder, at least Mosley's restricted, so we have a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to that. I think Sherman's not going to be on this team next year unless he wants to take a super team friendly deal. But I think you kind of touched on a really good point about Hyder and Verrett. If they continue to play well, they may be pricing themselves out of town, you know, at this point, when someone else that goes and says, you know what, Kerry Hyder, we slept on you last offseason. We're ready to give you the bag this season. And Jason Verrett, you know, we didn't want to take a shot on you then, but hey, here's a bunch of money for you to play for us now. You know, you just got to hope that those guys want to come back.
Yeah, which means you gotta hope they want to come back, which NFL players, and I don't blame them for a second. This isn't it's you got to get your money. If you're Jason Verrett, of course you're getting your money. Right? So so that's fine. That's the way this league works. You hope that you'd won a championship before you had to do this. This year was okay, you almost won a title. You try and run obviously you try and run it back, whatever. You didn't have a choice anyway, but that's what you do. And now we're in the position where you go, part of being good for a long time is turning your roster over and you don't get to live off 2 draft picks forever. And you don't get to live off, you nailed Richard Sherman when no one else was willing to do it, except whoever it was, the Lions or whatever. Fine. Great. But you have to keep doing it. That's so, and when you say that, sometimes it sounds critical. It's just the reality of it. And if you're really good at your job, the best NFL teams consistently do it. So I think they'll do it. I think they can do it. Part of this has been, and it's absolutely fair to point out, just insane, just nuts, right? Like just one after the other.
Javon Kinlaw now on the COVID list with Eric Armstead. Like, thank God it's the bye week, but it's almost comical.
Yeah. There's not a word to even encapsulate how crazy it's been. So when we talk about like Shanahan, like we can talk about all these guys. I'm sorry, you can't win consistently with Nick Mullins. Just can't be the quarterback on your team if you're going to win consistently. And that's nobody. That's just the reality. We see it. If you're going to be in games now, if you're going to be in games where the margins aren't thin, okay, but the margins are thin in every game they play, right? They're not creating a lot of turnover. They're not creating a ton of turnovers. Their defense, their team is so thin that the margins are thin. And so I got this thing is a wash to me, whatever the record ends up being at this point. Who's the best player you can get in the draft? How do you figure out what to do with your 5th-year option with Trent Williams? Who are the free agents you can add? How do you get better at corner? And if Nick Bosa is not healthy next year and a bunch of guys get hurt again, I don't know how anybody – sorry, I shouldn't say that. But I just –
please don't.
Klay Thompson injury got me in a bad mood. But I just don't know. You can't overcome that. But you can try and build the contingencies. And I thought they did that this year. Like, I thought their team was set up pretty well this year. And there's just some things you can't overcome. And now they're in a position where the math just is not – it's you need the Cardinals, you need the Seahawks and the Cardinals and the Rams to be worse than they were in the first half of the season. And it doesn't look like those teams are getting worse. Well, Seattle might be. But I do think like we're seeing this around the league. I saw Jeff Schwartz say this about the Ravens the other day. And I do think it does feel like the quality of play in the NFL is going down week to week to week to week as the season goes on. And I think part of it is just, everyone is dealing with on some level what the Niners have dealt with at a really, really high level. Not all injuries. Some of this is just COVID list related and continuity in practice and practice time. And I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree with that general thought. I haven't thought about it a ton, but it does feel to me like the league, as the season goes on, understandably, the quality of play, like the Seahawks to me are the microcosm of it. They are just.
It looks like a different team.
Yeah. Right. And it's crazy because we spent I feel like the first part of the season saying that guys who needed reps, especially rookies, didn't get them, right. And they seem to be hitting their stride a little bit later in the season. But I think you really touched on it right there with, now that everybody's kind of getting up to speed as far as defense, offense isn't winning as much. Guys have enough film and enough stuff to look at to try to take some of that stuff away. In the Seahawks case, Russell Wilson's just not playing as well as he was earlier in the season. Like that interception in the end zone was just egregious. Like you had nothing but real estate in front of you and you decided to chuck that into the end zone. It's like, what happened there?
So in his defense, he was on a historic pace, right?
Yeah.
Right. But still, it doesn't look the same.
Right. It just doesn't. And it's weird, right? And then you have Kyler Murray, doing what he's doing over there. And, they hit a little stretch where they weren't playing as well, but they keep finding ways to win games, right? Like Kyler Murray did enough in that game, clearly, with the Hail Mary for them to win, right? So I think, the quarterback is supposed to lift your team. And I guess this is a good segue into the big, conversation. I guess, Guy, we'll get your thoughts on it as well. Is this quarterback situation going into next year, right? So Kyle Shanahan was asked about, about Jimmy Garoppolo, and he says, I expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be here in 2021. For me, when I hear expectations are, it's broad, right? I expect to wake up with $1 million in my pocket. Never really happens.
Well, that's the result of me being on the show today.
Yeah. All right, so possibly tomorrow I can have $1 million in my pocket, right? Possibly not. But that's, I think, what the expectation was, right? Like saying expectations means as of right now, I expect him to be the quarterback because the next line was the one that was really telling. We haven't made decisions going forward on anybody next year. Basically saying, I don't want to kill Jimmy Garoppolo in the news, but I am also telling you that I'm probably going to be looking at upgrading the position in the draft or in the free agency. Would you say that I'm a little far off there?
No, I don't think you're far off there. Now, when it comes to quarterbacks, they're so hard. Like they're so easy to kind of get over them, right? But they're hard to replace. Yep. So, you can say it's time to find another guy. Like we've been having this conversation about Derek Carr for 4 or 5 years. Now, to his credit, he's having one of the best years of his career. And I do think his box score matches the eye test this year. There's always this argument with him about look at his yards per attempt. Yeah, but look how much he throws the ball deep. Yeah, but it doesn't look like it. He made a play. I texted Middlecoff the other day. He made a play in their last game. And my text was, I've never seen Garoppolo make that play. Now, fine. He doesn't, you don't all have to play the same way. But my point is just, it's easier to move on from a quarterback in theory than it is to actually move on from him, because the last thing you want to do, unless you're in a total rebuild, is move on from the guy before you have the next guy. And that's where it gets tricky, where you go, okay, fine, we need a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, fine. Well, how are you going to get that guy? And when are you going to get him? If you're going to get him in a trade before the draft, before you need to make a decision on Garoppolo's contract, then it's easy. But that doesn't happen. And Kirk Cousins is not available. Thankfully.
Yeah.
So, but not.
I know, right? I know.
Let's not put that energy in the air, please. I don't need to think about Kirk Cousins on the 49ers tonight.
So my point is, I think they will look at replacing him. I think they should. But that's different than it actually coming together, right? Would they be willing to do the Wentz deal, the Darnold trade? They don't necessarily have the capital, but would they be willing to move up from wherever they are? Are they going to be high enough maybe they'll just be high enough to draft Zach Wilson or, whatever, Davis Mills. But if there is a guy in the draft they like, are they going to go get him? Are they going to move up and do that? Or does Kyle think, oh, I can find the next guy in the second round, or I can find the next guy in the third round? Because if that's what you think, then Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely on your team.
Yeah.
If you move up to whatever or wherever maybe they don't need to move up and they draft a quarterback, what do you do? Well, I mean, you still might keep Jimmy Garoppolo around. I don't know. You might do what Miami did. Because I know this. and I've been down on him this year. You can win with him. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen him make winning plays. Now, as your team gets more expensive and things happen and you need more from your quarterback and your quarterback gets more expensive because you're going to keep him around, is he that level of player? That's where we get into this discussion about I think they will and I think they should look. And so I won't be surprised if he's not on the team next year. All I'm saying is it's easier to get rid of a quarterback in theory, but then you think, well, who?
For sure.
I'm not trying to suck next year. Who is my quarterback? And that's how a guy ends up back again, right?
For sure.
And you kind of answered it too, and I was going to ask, do you think it is a possibility that the 49ers bring back Garoppolo yet still, use a first or second round pick on a quarterback and do it that way like the Dolphins? I guess the other examples like the Chiefs did with Mahomes as well. Do you think that's a possibility for them?
Yeah, I think to me, all that stuff should be on the table. Now we do see one thing we are seeing this year. We say I bring up the Dolphins, but it's like now Tua's playing and they're still winning. And Herbert played basically right away, and it was great. And Burrow's playing right away on a team that's not as good as this team should be. And whatever you think of the Niners, that offensive line stinks, and that's working. So, I mean, you could argue you're paying Kyle Shanahan all this money because he's really good with quarterbacks. You shouldn't have to pay Jimmy Garoppolo $26 million or whatever it would be to babysit this guy you just took in the first round when you took him in the first round because he's your next guy.
Okay.
So, I mean, yes, absolutely. It's on the table. I guess I don't really have the answer to that, but I would say 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would have been more hardline. No, you don't have to rush the guy. You've got this Garoppolo. But they just don't have they could use $26 million on somebody. They could use that money.
Yep. Yeah.
So if you're going to draft a guy high, you go, hey, look, we can protect him. He doesn't have to look like Justin Herbert. He can play like Tua. My coach is this is what he does. So let's just draft a guy and let's play that guy. Mm-hmm. I'm more inclined to do that just to be cool with that. And especially you watch guys right now this year, you go, I'm not saying anybody, Herbert was drafted 6th and Tua was drafted 5th. And both of them could have legitimately, Tua obviously we know could have gone 1.
Yes.
I think looking at Herbert, it's clear he could have been the number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're not going to be in position in all likelihood to take that level of prospect, i.e. the guys that'll go 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 or whatever they go. But at this point, I'd be open to playing that guy right away.
See, that's the thing too, guy. I'm 100% on board with you here, right? Everything needs to be on the table, right? Whether it's, even from just Garoppolo's a starter with nobody else, that should be on the table. That shouldn't be likely, but that should be on the table, right? You should at least talk about it, right? But I think that if we are bringing Garoppolo back to be a bridge for someone else, he has to restructure that deal. Now, why would Jimmy Garoppolo give money away? That's a question I don't have the answer for. And I'm pretty certain he wouldn't, because why would you, right? Yeah. But that's the circumstance that I would love to have him under, right? Stay here, restructure this deal. And his agent knew exactly what he was doing full well when in his opt year, he gave him the no trade clause. Knew exactly what he was doing with that. So that kind of puts the 49ers in a bind as well too, right? It's not as easy to just say, hey, we're just going to move off of him and we're going to get draft capital. If Jimmy doesn't approve it and it's not back to New England, it's probably not going to happen at this point. So that's also something else to keep in mind when it comes to this.
But wouldn't it be back to New England?
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be. I mean, if it's not there, it's got to be Chicago, right?
Yeah,
back to
Chicago,
New England. Right, back to his, Illinois. They roll out the red carpet, but
we don't even know who the next coach of that. I mean, if they change coaches, we don't.
That's true too.
That is true.
I don't. Here's the other thing. This is always fun. Is no one has a good. Used to be everyone needs a quarterback, and then you start going through the list of people that really. It's they're stuck with that contract, and they're stuck with that, and they're stuck with that, and you can come up with 5 teams. So yeah, I mean Chicago will be on the list, whoever is the coach. So that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. But there's not that many teams really, right?
That at least don't have a plan in place or anything like that. The team that it's sad because the 49ers have the worst quarterback room in the NFC West. We could say that right now at this point, right? Our starting quarterback is probably the worst of all the 3, right? The other 3. You really start to think about all the other teams and everybody else is pretty well set, right? The Colts need a quarterback of the future. The Bucks need a quarterback for the future, but they're locked in twice, for 2 years with Brady, no matter what, come hell or high water. Like no chance he's not going to play that contract out. So I mean, and the Packers think they have their quarterback, but it's not really many when you really think about it, right? No. I know they.
Well, I guess we know the Jets. But Darnold maybe becomes somebody else's quarterback. We know Jacksonville's taking a quarterback. Houston doesn't need one; they stink. The Chargers stink, but they don't need one. Cincinnati stinks, but they don't need one. Denver probably does, but they're kind of stuck. Right?
Yeah.
Cleveland, I think eventually they will, but not anytime soon. Dallas, no. Washington, yeah. Carolina, they could put a guy there, but they don't. They got Teddy. The Giants, yeah, maybe. Okay. Right? I mean, but it's like people are stuck. To your point on the quarterback, that's the other thing this year is just like the NFC West is so good, and I'm looking at Kyler going. Is he going to get MVP votes before Russell Wilson ever does?
I think he is at this point.
Well, I think, look, Mahomes, I don't have his numbers in front of me. What is it?
25-1, I think.
25-1.
Yeah. Yeah. he's playing so well that it's like gone under the radar.
It has. But at the end, everyone's going to look like time to vote for MVP. And they're going, oh my God, the Chiefs are like 13-3 and Mahomes is 50-2.
Yeah, like Mahomes is the best player on the best team. Yeah,
and I've watched them multiple times and thought like they don't want to be here today. Like they're not into it. But so Kyler is not Mahomes, but to me, Kyler is on tier one of, if we just said who are the most valuable players to their team in the league. Kyler he's on tier one. Mahomes is on tier one. Russell's on tier. Kyler is on tier one.
Yeah.
They went all in on that like 3-move parlay. We'll trade our first round pick. We'll get Kyler or Highcliffe, and they nailed it. And for the next, and then it was a 14 parlay, and the easiest one was Hopkins just fell in their lap. It was insane.
Oh my God! See, that's so. This is what I'm yelling. After the catch happens, I'm like, oh my God, the catch happens, and then I get in my group chat, and I'm like, I can't believe that the Texans sent DeAndre Hopkins and the NFL allowed this to happen, to just go to Arizona for nothing. And it's like, now you have to deal with, like, again, not only are the quarterbacks, in this division, now you've got DK Metcalf, now you've got DeAndre Hopkins. It's like, cool, awesome. Just keep bringing all of the great receivers over here. Like, all you need to do is add Julio Jones to the Rams, and cool. Now we're just going to have to be covering like the best 3 receivers every week.
It's a shame Bill O'Brien. If Bill O'Brien was still there, he should call about Deshaun.
Watson.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. Say Saints need a quarterback. Yeah, I mean, we get 3 weeks with Jameis here.
Yep.
Oh, well, all right. Yep. So guy, I know you have a little bit of time, right before you have to go, right? Because we appreciate your time and everything. Yeah. But Andrew, right? This pod became a Jameis Winston pod pretty quickly. Because Andrew is such a Florida State guy. And I love Jameis too, just because of all the antics and everything as well too. Like, he needs to be starting, right? So now that he's started,
you can't watch his pregame warm-up and not just lose it.
Right. That's what I mean. So like, Jameis is this guy that like is must-see TV. Andrew
we need to clip that.
I will. Andrew is so excited being a Florida State fan and having him here. Like, he wanted to switch this from a 49ers pod. He's like, we're now a Jameis
podcast.
Jameis pod.
And to be fair, I'm hoping Jameis pans out, because I did the same thing with Christian Ponder and I did the same thing with EJ Manuel. So I'm hoping Jameis pans out.
Charlie Ward.
I mean, I'm only almost 28 now.
How many Florida State quarterbacks can we name?
Drew Weatherford.
Drew
Weatherford's the first one, I think, because I went to the 2007 Emerald Bowl where Patrick Robinson had the pick 6 to beat UCLA. And that's like the game I fell in love with Florida State, because like that was my first ever college football game I've been to.
Florida State, so cool. I hope they get cool again, man.
I hope they get
bad evals, Andrew.
Man. Yeah, thank you. Hey, I watched them be good at Florida State, so my brain's like, I still firmly believe. No, I don't firmly believe. 2 years ago, I firmly believed Kelvin Benjamin could be an NFL receiver. I was very wrong on that too.
When Jameis came into the game today, I texted Middlecoff. I was like, this is the Niners' hope. Like, he's gonna hit somebody in the hands, and he did.
Right.
And he did.
He did.
Exactly. See, you know what's funny, and I think that's what because we didn't really talk about the Saints, and we'll ask you one more question and let you go. But I thought the same thing as well too. It's like the 49ers can't win a game where Drew Brees, who came into a game with cracked ribs, got taken out, and then Jameis Winston came in and tried to throw you the ball, and you still couldn't get it done. I think that's completely frustrating. So, we know that you get. I'm sorry, guy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, look, I get it's frustrating. It's hard to watch,
right? Yeah.
It's just it's not fun to watch a team not succeed,
right?
But I'll finish where I started. I think they have a good coach. They're gonna have to nail some picks now, but they've done it before, and they've got to evaluate their own players really well here because they got some decisions to make. But I hope they got to find. Obviously they'll take a South Carolina corner early. Every time I watch South Carolina, it's just some 6'4" guy high stepping down the sideline with a pick six. So I know they got 12. They got 12 of them. Although maybe they'll hire Muschamp and he can help them with some pre-draft scouting or something now.
Right.
But I'll admit I'm pivoting a little to the draft, which is fine. I love the draft. So I'm still watching every Niner game very closely, evaluating every Niner very closely. But December 12th, BYU, San Diego State. You want BYU to win that game. You want Zach Wilson to end up in a bowl game against somebody sweet, maybe Florida. I don't know who. And then we can really get an evaluation on him as a quarterback. So that's where my head's at right now.
Guys, so that we'll leave you with this, and I think you kind of touched on it, but the mindset for this team, right? Should this team be thinking about a playoff push, or should they be really thinking about just turning the page to next season and just getting ready for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I got no problem with a coach coaching to win, right? But at this point, I don't see how they can make the playoffs, because even if they were 5-5, even if they had won the Saints game and we're 5-5, you go, okay, they're getting guys back, right? But even in that scenario, you'd say they play Washington, Dallas. They got the Rams, the Bills, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks again. So you got to beat Washington, Dallas. And then you got to win 2 of those other 4 games against the Rams, the Bills, the Cardinals, the Seahawks. You got to win 2 of those 4 just to go 9-7. And then at 9-7, you need like some other crazy. You need Arizona to be 9-7, or you need at least Arizona and 2 of the 3, Arizona, Seattle, and the Rams to be 9-7 and somehow have a tie. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, so if they had won the game, to me, I'd 100% be talking about it, but the math would just be really difficult.
Yeah.
Now that they've lost the game, I don't.
That's really what it is. Honestly, it's a numbers game, right? Where do the wins come from, right? So I think that the Washington, Dallas, right? Those are the ones that you're like, yeah. The Rams, maybe.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, even when this 49ers team was whole last year, they couldn't stop the Cardinals. Imagine now. And then, Seattle. The Seattle game is week 17. So who knows if Seattle's already got the division wrapped up. They're not playing for anything.
Which at this point, I think they'll be playing for something week 17.
Yeah. Because it's that one bye week that everybody, I mean, that home field advantage and that one bye week that everybody's going to be, fighting for. And, if Seattle doesn't step right, Arizona's right there on their heels to try and take it from them. They continue to lose games, and Arizona finds ways to win them. So,
and they play tomorrow.
Yep.
So if Arizona wins that game, now the whole thing's like, is Arizona going to win the division?
Yep. But you know what, God, thank you, man. We know that we know that you're up against time and everything as well. We appreciate you. We appreciate you joining, and we know that you're busy and everything as well. Means a lot to us, honestly, for you to join our program, and we just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys asking, Andrew. Great to meet you, man. Jason, good to see you again. Everybody in the comments, reading your comments. Yep. Matt, take that.
But yeah, if you gotta go, then yeah, we can we'll just finish up here, and we'll ask you to come back eventually, when you're not as busy.
I'm happy to come back. Enjoy talking to you guys.
For sure. Thank you, guys.
Real quick, do you want the bad news now, or do you want to read it yourself?
The torn Achilles confirmed.
Warriors fear he has suffered a significant Achilles injury.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I love Klay Thompson, and not just because we look alike. Like, I really love the way he plays basketball. So this sucks for me too.
I'm sorry. What was that other part?
That he looks like me.
Oh.
Beard, little beard, a little something.
Can I tell you guys something real quick before I go?
What's that?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
So last year, I got to call Washington, the game that they retired Clay's jersey in Pullman. And it was like the first sellout they had at Washington State. The place was bananas. Like, it was snow on the ground, right? Zaza's there, Clay's there. I think maybe Johnny West was there. Steph was there. Like, Steph and Clay walk into this place, 15,000 people. It is bananas. And Clay is into every play. Clay went to the women's basketball practice the day before. He went to the men's basketball practice the day before. And guess what he did when he got there? He grabbed the ball and started shooting around with everybody. And he was hyping up the crowd. They had halftime ceremonies for him, but they also had a women's basketball player at Washington State had just, I think, passed or joined Clay on like the all-time scoring list for men's and women's hoops. He went out to midcourt to present her with an award. Yeah. Like, he was so just engaged in the moment, happy, kind to everybody. I mean, he came on with us on the TV broadcast, but just seeing the way that place loved him and seeing the way it's just, I saw somebody tweet this, like, the internet can't agree on everything, but everyone agrees that everyone loves Klay Thompson.
True.
So Jason, maybe can you put on the 11 jersey maybe? And
depends on if Kyle wants me to stay on the practice squad to get me ready for.
You got to play receiver. Yeah, right. Brian Jordan, Dion.
Yeah, Steph is the best player on the Warriors, but Clay's definitely the fan favorite, and it's a bummer. It's really, really a bummer.
Yeah,
and hopefully get better. So,
yeah. Sorry, I mean, being a Warrior Niner combo fan,
it's almost like you were praying for the high ankle sprain this time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. But anyways, Guy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Guy.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. See ya.
Take it easy, man.
Have a good night, man.
All right, so I guess we could just leave it open for, any sort of questions, anything like that. I think we kind of covered everything. I think that Friday what we'll do is really deep dive into the Saints game because we have a bye week. We'll do some film, a little bit of that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it's awesome that Guy joined us, man. That guy has a bunch of stuff going on. For him to take time for us is it's just a testament to the type of guy that he is. Very humble. Wanting to help and just wanting to talk ball with people. So
it means the world. Means the world. It really does, Guy. We really appreciate that. We didn't talk about everything though.
No, we didn't. But
there's a new 49er player.
Who is that?
Maybe.
Zach McKinley.
Has he passed the physical yet?
I mean,
he's tweeting like it's a thing.
Right. So he tweeted like it's done. Right.
Yes.
So I think that the tag thing, right? Like what we should look at it is he's going to be playing outside and it's going to kick Eric Armstead in. Now, is this what's going to get Eric Armstead going? I can't say for sure, but we are about to take away the excuses of, he's out there on the edge because it'll be, Hyder and Tack on both sides with him, on the inside. So maybe this, gives the defense a little bit of a lift. That's the positive in me trying to think about this move.
Well, yeah, and that's it. Like, I don't want to speak too much on McKinley because I personally don't know too much about him, and I don't feel comfortable talking about him yet. Mm-hmm. What I do know, though, is I've read that the Niners, if he leaves, they're going to get pick compensation. But if they stay, that means he's earned his spot, and that's an edge, player for next year. So it's really a low risk, high reward signing by the Niners. It's a position they need this year due to the amount of injuries. But if you're looking for my specific opinions on Takk McKinley, that'll come Thursday or Friday or next week. I think he can play because it's not 14, it's 5 days, right?
Right. So he has to do 5 or 6 days of consecutive negative tests, and then he can join the building. So with the Carlos Dunlap thing, it was too close to game day, so it didn't work for Seattle that way. So he could play against the Rams, especially considering the bye week as well too. So I would say yes to that. I definitely would. Here's another good question. So Ray asks, what other Niners will not be on the roster next season? This is a good question. I was on the Niners Nation podcast today with Levin Black and Rob Stas Guerrero, and they asked the same question. And there's 29 potential free agents or guys that could leave. I mean, the names that jump out that probably won't be on the roster off the top of my head, probably Richard Sherman, Jaquiski Tart, D Ford. D Ford's not a free agent though. They got to figure out a way to.
That's true. Yeah.
So I mean, if they want to create some space, they can do it that way. Jason Verrett is probably. I would say that I think Jason Verrett's going to be back, but again, it goes back to my point of if somebody comes along and he's outpriced himself because of how he's played, how can a guy turn down money and how can you blame somebody from taking money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, there's such a long list. It's so hard to predict as well.
Kerry Hyder. Kerry Hyder. Yeah. No, Hyder has to come back. But again, you get to a point where it's like, what if some other team sees, oh, wow, Kerry Hyder was doing this with no other help? Like, it's not like Nick Bosa was on the other side.
Yeah.
Like he's actually playing well and he's got a higher pressure percentage than D Ford did last year. Obviously, he's playing more snaps, but nobody would have thought they would have been able to say that. Going into this year or even later in the year.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like the off season feels so far away. To be honest. I'm trying to think. I don't have the list of 29 in front of me. Guy named that list like he's been practicing it, and I was honestly super impressed by that. I don't think Sherman's going to be here next year. I hope he is. I don't think he's going to be on the 49ers next season. I know I'm one of the last people on this boat. I'm partially hoping Garoppolo's still here. I don't think he will be. I think, the quarterback situation will probably be handled in the draft. I think the running back room is going to look a lot different next season as well.
That's a good question too.
I think Mostert's staying. I think he's going to be the only one we really have that's a part of the main three. I mean, Walter's probably going to be here. JaMychal Hasey's probably going to be there. Hasey might get a shot somewhere else, though.
Coleman's gone, I think. I think Coleman goes.
And I think McKinnon as well.
McKinnon is up, too. But here's the thing. And I kind of would have agreed with you right off the rip about, McKinnon not being there. But there's something about them maybe bringing him back again, because they can really use him as that third down role. Yeah. I don't want to say that they will, but I wouldn't be shocked if this team brought Jet back on a very super friendly team deal.
Yeah, it's going to have to be, because I think this front office is really learning that they don't have to pay for a running back at this point. I mean, JaMychal Hasey's looked fine in the very small amount of carries he's gotten. Raheem Mostert, obviously everybody knows his story. So I think that the running back room will look a lot different, and it'll be different guys for cheaper than what they got Coleman and McKinnon for. So we'll see.
Right. And then the other news that came out today was that Javon Kinlaw was added to the COVID-19 list. Now, that doesn't mean that Kinlaw has a positive test. Yes. He could be considered high risk. Also, it is the bye week. Look, it's comical. It just adds on to all the stuff that we were talking about, but Javon Kinlaw, I suspect, should be fine for the next game. So if it was you don't want to wish anybody to get on this list or get it, but if there was ever a time for this to happen, it would be right now. It would be now. There's all this time. Yeah. So
I would say a worse time is having 9 players go on the COVID list 4 days before you're supposed to play the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football.
And I have a question for you too. So that's Oakland, right? So I mean that's Las Vegas, right?
Vegas. So, I don't know an Oakland football team.
Right, there you go. So Vegas has their entire defense on the COVID list right now. Again, doesn't mean that they have positive tests, but what if we get to game day and there's still 11 guys on your COVID list? Are you going to move this game back? You better make them play it the way that they made the 49ers play, especially considering that you probably had a little bit more wiggle room when it came to that Thursday night when moving it out. Mm-hmm. But hey, I don't want to talk about.
We have already said our opinion on what this is. Like the fact that game is still on as scheduled right now. Like even if the NFL released a statement saying, "Hey, we're considering moving it," that's cool. That's fine. Just give me something. But the silence is all you need to know. Salvin Ahmad looks good with the Dolphins. Yeah. I actually, the only reason I bring that up, my friend's a big Dolphins fan. I've told you that. And he's like, yeah, can you look up Ahmad for me? I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll look him up. I don't know anything about him. I was really impressed with his college tape, actually. I really like what I saw. He's really patient, and he could be available, possibly be available, because he is They signed him off the Niners practice. No, he didn't sign off the Niners practice squad. He signed from somewhere. So he'll be a free agent. Maybe the Niners bring him back in for a look if he's available. But then again, the Dolphins also have Myles Gaskins. They have God, I don't know why I can't say a
Matthew Breida.
And Matt Breida, who they apparently forget exists, and he still needs to cook. I don't know why they're not giving him a chance. So yeah, Ahmed could be a possibility since the Niners did bring him in. So yeah, we'll see. I feel like I had one more thing I had, and I'm totally drawing a blank, but I'm happy that we have a show on Friday.
Yeah, Tech.
It had nothing to do with news. It was just a question I had. I just kind of wanted to ask, but I forgot.
Oh, okay.
I did watch tape, and I tweeted it out. Kinlaw was I don't want to say double teamed, because run plays you send two blockers one spot to open that hole. Kinlaw was targeted by two offensive linemen on 37% of the snaps on Sunday that he played. So I don't know. That's just something I noticed.
No, that's analysis right there. And then I think the one big play that I noticed was one of those plays that he was also double teamed on the pass breakup, right? So he's falling out of position, but he was still aware enough to get in the way of that Kamara throw. And I think that's what you like. That's what you really want to look at about Kinlaw and to say, listen, his motor never stops. Even when he looks like he's out of a play, he's not stopping. And that's the part that you really need to be excited about. Another thing is I was noticing that his hands were getting guys off of him now. It wasn't just straight bull rushes. Again, the kid is getting his reps. He's moving in the right direction. That's all you want. Slow progress is better than no progress. And he's been showing it almost every single week, man. I'm sick of the Javon Kinlaw is not doing anything. Like, I am sick of it. Like, please pop on the tape and watch. It's more to than just grabbing the quarterback.
Well, what's funny is that pass deflection. That's the play that's the kind of play I'm talking about from him, because he actually didn't get his hand on that ball. So He doesn't get credited for a pass breakup or a batted ball. So that's the type of play that I'm talking about. It doesn't show up on the box score, but that's a damn impressive. He did enough to interrupt that play.
Right.
So like that's the kind of thing I'm talking about with him is he plays a position that doesn't get a lot of credits in terms of numbers. So yeah, I wanted to throw that out there. And then the thing I do remember, I tweeted this out as well. What decided the game? And we talk about the NFL being a field position game. The Saints starting field position on Sunday on their scoring drives, 49ers 25, 49ers 21, New Orleans 43, New Orleans 36, and the 49ers 22 yards. The longest drive they had to go was, 64 yards. That was their longest scoring drive. And I don't know if that's a field goal or a touchdown, so they might have even had to go that far. On the drives, the Saints did not score a touchdown. Their own 22, their own 20, their own 22, their own 33, their own 31, and their own 25. It really came down to if the Saints, oh my God, what was that? The Saints, oh my goodness gracious. The Saints having a short field, they were able to score.
Yeah.
But the Niners, that was one of Robert Saleh's, one of his better games, I think.
For sure. And that's another thing. I'm talking about people pricing themselves out. Yeah. Robert Saleh continues to move up, right? Like in these head coaching rankings, like he's going to be as hot a commodity as Eric Bieniemy is in this offseason, you know, and it was brought up to me on this podcast that I did today on Niners Nation. He's infectious when he talks to you. So when he gets the interview, he's going to nail it, right? It all depends on just where he wants to land, you know, at this point. Like I could see him going right back to Jacksonville. Right back there and starting over there. So Robert Saleh is doing an amazing job with what he's been given. If you want to talk about in-game adjustments, that's a whole other thing. I feel that he's doing the best at with what he's working with, honestly, at this point. So, kudos to him, man. And this defense is still top 5. That's impressive. That's impressive. That's the sort of stuff that the Patriots used to do when they were missing a bunch of guys, right? They would find a way to have their defense play well. If it's not pass rush, then you lean towards coverage. And I think Robert Saleh has done a great job of switching away from that because he knows he doesn't have that at his disposal and doing the best he can with what he has.
Yeah, and that's one of the names that we kind of forget is who's not going to be on the Niners next year. He's probably one of them.
He's probably is.
And we will definitely talk more about the Saints game on Friday. We got a chance to have Guy on, so we shifted some things. As you can tell, we had a later start time today. We will be back 5:30 on Friday. We are getting closer to making our announcement. We're inching there. We're inching there. We're dealing with some final stuff. It's really exciting. And we also might have a guest on Wednesday. We won't reveal that identity before.
Not yet.
We want to confirm it before we tease it. But we'll be back to normal Friday. It'll just be Jason and I. And then Wednesday we might have a guest, and maybe Friday we'll be able to drop this announcement that I'm hoping comes through. It is in terms. Should I give them just a little bit?
Just a little.
It'll change the way you guys can listen to us.
Correct.
I will say the live broadcast will stay. We're not getting rid of that. That's not what we're doing. But we're going to get you guys some more options. I'll leave it at that, and we'll go from there. So, any final thoughts, Jason?
No, thank you guys for tuning in. You know, we knew that it would be a great thrill for everybody to see Guy, and to be able to secure somebody like that who's so busy. Like I did. It was absolutely true that I did ask him to come on next week, but next week is Thanksgiving and he's out covering a game. So we were able to work some things around to get him on today. When you have somebody who can get on like that, you make it work, and we did. So again, shout out to him for joining, man. And and we got some good stuff coming for you guys, but the thing is that none of this stuff is possible if you guys aren't tuning in.
Yes.
And that's really what it is. So we appreciate everybody who's tuned in, left questions, who talk about us on Twitter and everything as well. But just know that we've got something really big coming. So there's going to be, like Andrew said, another way that you'll be able to get to us.
Yes. And Ray, I'm going to answer your question walking off. Whoever Kyle Shanahan decides, it really depends week to week. So thank you very much, guys. We will see you. We do not, but I mean, if you're not curious, I have a.
We don't, Keener. But we'll talk, man. Just hit me, man.
Anyways, hey, we appreciate that, Keener. We appreciate it. We don't though. We appreciate the thought.
Yeah.
We'll see you Friday. And Jason, I feel like we haven't done this to end the show in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Go 49ers.
Let's go Niners.
Go Niners.
Later, guys. Thank you.